Book 5, Rook the Reluctant. Chapter 1. A Goblin's Modest Dwelling. There are few things sadder in the world than a goblin with ambition. Rook, for instance, had once dreamed of an actual one, with walls that didn't wheeze in the wind, and a floor that didn't squelch when stepped on. What he got instead was, well, technically a dwelling. It was under an outbuilding behind the royal kennels, which meant it smelled faintly of wet dog, scorched hay, and the kind of stew that could file for citizenship in several nations simultaneously. Still, it had a door, a small miracle, 2 candles, one of which was optimistic at best, and a bed that was only partially made of things that used to be alive. By goblin standards, it was luxury. By human standards, it was evidence. Rook lit one of his candles, surveyed his new domain, and sighed with satisfaction.
"This,"
he said aloud to no one in particular,
"is what success smells like."
Rook wasn't always the king's least favourite subject. In fact, once upon a particularly bad day for the realm, he had saved King Wulfric's life. You'd think that would have earned him a knighthood, or at least a dinner invite that didn't end in being thrown into a moat. Instead, it earned him employment, which is, of course, the worst reward of all. Rook had become the king's special problem solver, which was royal speak for, if it's dangerous, disgusting, or deeply unwise, send Rook. That morning he was summoned to the castle. The guard who fetched him a bored teenager named Cedric. He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else.
"The king wants to see you,"
Cedric said.
"Lovely,"
said Rook.
"Tell him I'm busy rearranging my candle collection."
Cedric didn't even blink.
"He said if you said that again, he'd have you fed to the pigeons."
"Ah, he's still on about the pigeon thing."
"Yes."
Rook sighed.
"Fine. Lead on, O harbinger of doom."
The royal throne room was everything Rook hated. Large, echoey, and full of people who believed their opinions mattered. King Wulfric sat on the throne. Queen Mirabelle sat beside him, half amused, half resigned, petting a very fluffy cat named Prince Fluffykins. The Prince Fluffykins, age 15, was sitting on the steps below, sulking like it was a paid position.
"Rook,"
said the king, voice booming across the hall.
"I have a task for you."
Rook bowed low, mostly to hide his expression.
"I tremble with anticipation, Your Majesty."
"You should,"
the king growled.
"There's a hole."
"A hole?"
"Yes, a hole in the ground, near the edge of the forest.
"How very exciting."
And I want you to go into it."
Rook paused.
"Forgive me, Your Majesty, but this is the sort of hole one falls into, yes? Not one builds an itinerary around?"
Queen Mirabelle stifled a laugh.
"It's full of bats,"
said the king, ignoring her.
3 of which I require. Alive."
Rook blinked.
"Alive? As in still making bat noises?"
"Yes."
"For what purpose, may I ask?"
"Royal matters,"
the king snapped.
"Do you question my orders, Goblin?"
"Constantly,"
said Rook.
"But fine, I'll fetch your fluttery sky rats."
Prince Fluffykins perked up.
"Can I go with him?"
The king groaned.
"No."
The queen smiled.
"Oh, let him go, Wulfric. It'll be good for him. Character building."
"Character building,"
said the king.
"It's hole diving."
"Exactly,"
said the queen.
"Think of it as a field trip."
"I said no."
Rook gave a crooked grin.
"I'd be honored to accompany His Highness into certain peril. He won't come back, I'm sure."
And so it was that Rook, a homeless goblin, assassin by trade, collector of unwise assignments, found himself preparing for his next glorious adventure. A trip into a giant hole to capture 3 live bats, accompanied by a royal teenager named after a cat. It wasn't destiny, it wasn't glorious, it was Tuesday. Chapter 2. The Sword That Wouldn't Shut Up and the Note That Did. Rook had always said that a goblin's life was mostly about managing expectations. For example, if you expected warmth, comfort and dignity, you'd die disappointed. If you expected drafty ceilings, leaky walls and the occasional royal sewage leak, you might actually get pleasantly surprised. So when Rook climbed down the ladder into his home, the snug aromatic space beneath the royal outhouse, and found a note shoved under his door. He was almost touched. No one ever left him notes. Usually if the king wanted to send a message, he sent it via a spear. Rook bent down, pried the damp parchment off the floor and squinted at the smudged handwriting. "You're my enemy now." That was it. No signature, no punctuation, just 4 words written in aggressive crayon. Rook turned it over. Nothing on the back.
Well,
He said.
that narrows it down to everyone I've ever met.
From somewhere in the shadows, a metallic voice yawned.
Do we have a fan?
Rook groaned.
No, Talwyn. We have a stalker.
The sword shimmered faintly in its scabbard.
Oh, good. I was starting to think we'd lost our charm.
Rook tossed the note onto his makeshift table, an overturned bucket with ambition, and sat on his bed, a hay pile that squeaked in protest.
You think it's from the king?
Doubtful.
Said the sword.
His spelling's better.
The queen?
She has calligraphy.
Prince Fluffykins?
Now there's a suspect.
Rook sighed.
Perfect. The royal brats decided to declare war by correspondence.
Isn't he 15?
Yes.
Then expect glitter next time,
Said the sword.
Right. Let's focus. I need rope. I have a net.
Impossible.
Said Sir Talwyn.
I'm ignoring you.
Said Rook.
No, you're trying to ignore me.
The sword corrected.
It's very different.
He rummaged through his meagre belongings, a coil of frayed twine, 1 stale heel of bread, 2 candles, 1 mostly wick, and a dented metal flask labelled "Definitely not poison,"
Travel kit of champions.
he muttered,
You could just catch the bats by hand.
suggested the sword.
I'd rather juggle knives.
Said Rook. He stepped out from under the outhouse into the weak daylight. The castle loomed above him, smug as ever. Somewhere inside, the king was probably congratulating himself on assigning another accidental death mission. Rook spat into the dirt.
If I survive this, I'm moving into the barn.
He adjusted his pack, checked that Sir Talwyn was firmly belted at his side, and preferably muted, and started down the castle path toward Mudfen village. The sword hummed quietly, in what might have been a tune or might just have been passive aggression in musical form.
Sue!
Said Sir Talwyn.
Enemy letters, bat errands, and no backup. Just another day of glory for Rook the Reluctant.
Glory smells a lot like sewage.
Rook muttered. By the time he reached the hill overlooking the castle moat, he glanced back once. The outhouse squatted in the courtyard like an unimpressed toad, and just beneath it, the faint outline of his little door glinted in the morning sun. He thought briefly of the note again, those childish, spiteful words. "You're my enemy now," Rook chuckled to himself.
Fine.
He said aloud.
You first.
And with that he headed toward the village to buy his net, and possibly find out who in the kingdom had decided to start writing him hate mail. Chapter 3. The Village of Mudfen and the Goblin Shopping List. By the time Rook reached the edge of Mudfen, the morning fog had rolled in so thick you could butter it and serve it with bread. The village sat in a shallow dip of earth, half swamp, half stubbornness, a handful of sagging cottages, a market that smelled faintly of both soup and regret, and a sign that read, "Welcome to Mudfen." Someone had scrawled "Leave while you can" underneath. Rook trudged down the main path, adjusting his hood to hide the green. Goblins didn't usually get warm welcomes in Mudfen, or anywhere really, except graveyards and taverns where standards had already collapsed. At his hip, the cursed sword gave a faint metallic hum.
Ah, civilization,
Said Sir Talwyn.
where the air smells of stew and suspicion.
Don't start.
Rook muttered.
I just need supplies, not a sermon.
Supplies for what precisely? Bat hunting?
Probably.
The first shop he stopped at was a general store run by a woman with the eyes like a hawk, and a posture that suggested she could throw a barrel farther than Rook could think.
Morning.
Rook said, forcing a polite grin.
I'm looking for rope, maybe a lantern.
She froze mid-motion.
You're that goblin from the castle, aren't you?
He sighed.
Depends who's asking.
They say you live under the king's privy.
He nodded. Her mouth twitched, torn between fear and curiosity.
Well, I heard something last night.
she said, lowering her voice.
A deep voice, right by the castle wall, down near the outhouse.
Rook's grin faltered.
Did it sound angry?
Didn't sound human.
She said.
Like something big was whispering through a bucket.
Lovely image.
Said Rook. Sir Talwyn perked up from his scabbard.
Oh, that's encouraging. You've finally attracted the attention of something worse than yourself.
Could have been an echo.
Rook muttered.
Or a demon.
Offered the sword helpfully.
Or a drunk raccoon.
Rook countered.
You're not the only cursed voice in this kingdom.
Rook bought the rope, a half-broken lantern, and some dried meat that might once have been edible. As he turned to leave, the shopkeeper leaned forward.
You should be careful, Goblin. Mudfen's been strange lately. Lights in the marsh, cows missing, and now voices in the night.
Rook gave her a thin smile.
Thanks. I'll add that to my growing list of things to ignore.
Out in the muddy street, the gossip was already circling like lazy vultures. 2 old men by the well were talking loud enough for anyone to hear.
Swear I heard it myself. A deep voice saying something awful.
One said.
By the outhouse wall.
Asked the other.
Aye. Thought it was the king's plumbing acting up again.
Nah. Said words it did. Clear as day.
Rook slowed his step.
What did it say?
The man scratched his chin.
Something like, he'll pay. Or maybe he smells. Can't be sure.
Rook winced.
Well, that narrows it down to either a vengeful spirit or the royal chef.
Sir Talwyn chuckled darkly.
Or perhaps whoever left your little love letter.
Rook's hand brushed the note in his pocket. You're my enemy now. It didn't make sense. He didn't have enemies, just employers who wanted him dead and colleagues who wanted him replaced. That was normal, but this felt personal. He stopped at the tavern, the Muddy Maiden still leaning at a dangerous angle, and slipped inside. The air was thick with smoke, beer, and people trying to pretend they hadn't noticed him. A bard plucked a lute in the corner, clearly losing an argument with his tuning. The innkeeper, who looked like he'd been carved from beef, raised an eyebrow.
Rook, here to start trouble or end it?
Neither,
said Rook.
Just passing through.
He dropped a few coins on the counter.
You hear anything strange near the castle last night?
The innkeeper snorted.
Strange? You live there. The bar's already low.
Fair,
said Rook.
But specifically, deep voice by the outer wall.
The man's eyes flickered.
Some drunk hunter mentioned it. Said it wasn't a voice so much as a growl that tried to talk. Spooked his horse.
Sir Talwyn hummed thoughtfully.
A growling voice leaving messages? Oh yes, absolutely normal. Perhaps it wants to be pen pals.
Rook muttered.
If it's trying to kill me, it'll have to queue.
He left the tavern with the evening creeping in, clouds hanging low like wet laundry. Somewhere out beyond the fields the forest waited, and in its depths, the hole. But before that he had another mystery. Who had crept to his door in the night? Who had written, "You're my enemy now," in angry crayon and left it like a curse? And whose deep, unnatural voice had been heard right outside? Rook didn't know, but he knew one thing for sure. If something was whispering threats outside his outhouse, it was going to regret it. And with that, Rook turned toward the mist and the waiting forest, the note in his pocket and trouble on his heels. Chapter 4. A peaceful evening ruined by rocks. By dusk, Rook had found a campsite, which was to say, a patch of damp earth that looked slightly less likely to collapse under him than the rest of the forest floor. He set down his pack, struck a flint and coaxed a small fire to life. The flames flickered bravely against the darkening trees, illuminating a circle of mist and mosquitoes. It wasn't much, but it was quiet. Too quiet.
Finally,
said Sir Talwyn, his voice dripping with metallic smugness.
A night beneath the stars. Just you, me, and the slow march of existential dread.
Bliss,
said Rook.
If you start singing again, I'll use you to toast bread.
I do have a fine edge for that,
said the sword proudly. Rook lay back against his pack and stared up at the canopy. The sky beyond was the colour of spilled ink, the first stars peeking through like nosy eyes. For a moment, a rare, fragile moment, it was peaceful. Then something pinged off his forehead. He sat up, blinking. A small stone rolled to a stop beside him.
What?
He muttered. He scanned the trees. Nothing moved, just the chirp of night insects and the whisper of leaves. He lay back down. Ping, another stone. Right between the eyes this time, Rook sat up faster.
All right,
He said aloud.
whoever's doing that, congratulations. You've annoyed me.
Silence. Sir Talwyn sighed.
Maybe the forest disapproves of you camping here.
Then it can send a polite letter.
Rook snapped.
Preferably not in projectile form.
He stood, squinting into the shadows. The fire crackled softly, light glinting off his sword's edge.
Come on, then.
Rook called.
If you're going to throw things, at least throw something worth stealing.
A pause. Then, plink. Another pebble bounced off his shoulder.
Right, that's it.
He stomped toward the tree line, muttering under his breath. The cursed sword hummed with excitement.
Ooh, confrontation! Shall I offer a heroic battle cry?
Please don't,
Said Rook.
Last time you tried that, a squirrel attacked us.
He stepped into the dark. The underbrush rustled faintly. The air smelled of moss and mystery, two of his least favourite things.
Show yourself,
Rook barked.
or I'll start stabbing everything.
There was a soft scuffle behind a bush. Rook raised the sword, eyes narrowing. The blade gleamed faintly blue in the dark. Something small darted out, and hit him square in the nose. Rook blinked, stunned. Whatever it was landed with a soft thud in the leaves. He leaned down and picked it up. Another stone, but this one had something tied around it, a scrap of parchment.
Oh, not again,
He muttered. He untied it and squinted at the shaky handwriting. I warned you. Stay away from the hole. The sword gave a low whistle.
Well, this is going to be fun.
Rook frowned.
At least they're consistent.
Maybe it's the same admirer who sent you that first note.
Wonderful. A secret pen pal with throwing arms.
He looked around again, eyes scanning the tree line.
You think they're still here?
The sword hummed.
Hard to say. The forest echoes. Could be a ghost. Could be a peasant.
I'd bet on any of them.
Rook muttered. He tossed the stone aside and went back to the fire, flopping down with an exhausted sigh.
You know, I thought bat hunting was going to be the stupid part of my week.
Oh, don't underestimate the power of stupid,
Said Sir Talwyn.
It's the only thing that keeps you alive.
Rook stared into the fire for a long moment. The flames popped. Somewhere in the woods something laughed. Softly, deep and guttural, like gravel sliding down a well. Rook froze. The sword went perfectly still.
Did you hear that?
Rook whispered.
I'm a sword,
Said Talwyn.
I hear everything, and I wish I didn't.
The laugh came again, closer this time, curling around the edges of the clearing. Then silence. Rook tightened his grip on the hilt.
If that's whoever's throwing rocks, they're about to learn how pointy I am when I'm tired.
The forest said nothing, just the rustle of leaves, the crackle of fire, and the faint sound of something breathing, somewhere very nearby. He threw another log on the fire, muttered something rude in Goblin, and tried to sleep, though every time his eyes began to close, he could have sworn he heard the faint clatter of stones shifting in the dark. Chapter 5. Enemies Anonymous. Rook woke to the unmistakable feeling of being watched. Not the usual kind either. Not the royal guard checking if he's stealing cutlery kind, or the villager wondering if goblins eat babies kind. No. This was the kind of feeling that said, something very small and very annoying is nearby. The fire had burned down to embers, casting everything in sleepy orange light. The forest was hushed, the mist heavy and low. Rook yawned, rubbed his eyes, and froze. There were footprints in the dirt beside the fire, small ones. Too small for a human, too neat for an animal. Little ovals pressed in pairs, like tiny feet walking on tiptoe.
Talwyn,
he whispered. The sword stirred lazily in its scabbard.
If this is another mosquito, I'm not getting involved.
Look!
Rook pointed.
Footprints!
Talwyn's runes flickered faintly, studding the ground.
Child-sized?
I don't think so. Or demon-sized, or maybe a pixie.
Ah, so everything you attract, then.
Rook leaned closer to the firelight, following the prince. They circled the camp, weaving between his pack and his boots, and then right up to him. And there, resting squarely on his chest, was a small piece of folded parchment.
Oh, for the love of...
He snatched it up. 3 words written in the same shaky hand as before. I don't like you. Rook stared at it, then at the footprints, then at the trees.
Well,
He said flatly.
that narrows it down to... everyone.
The sword chuckled.
Congratulations. You've finally achieved universal appeal.
This is harassment.
Rook muttered, sitting up and brushing off ash.
Oh, come now. It's barely assault.
It's creepy, Talwyn. Notes don't just deliver themselves.
Maybe they do,
said the sword.
Maybe your secret admirer is a ghost with excellent penmanship.
Rook ignored him and stood, turning in a slow circle. The trees whispered softly, but there was no movement, no hint of who or what had been there. He sniffed the air. It smelled faintly of damp moss and something sweet, like overripe fruit and candle wax.
Whoever's doing this,
he muttered,
has terrible social skills.
Oh,
said Talwyn cheerfully.
You two will get along splendidly.
Rook squatted by the footprints again. He'd seen plenty of tracks in his life. Human, beast, monster. But these were odd, light, barely an inch deep. No claws, no tail marks. Just feet.
Too clean,
he said.
Nothing that lives in this forest walks clean.
Except things that don't live in it,
the sword offered helpfully. He looked back down at the note still in his hand. The paper was rough, like it had been torn from something larger, maybe a ledger or a child's school book. The ink blotched in one corner as if written in haste or anger. He read it again. I don't like you.
Biting stuff,
he said dryly.
Real Shakespearean menace.
Perhaps they're building up to something grander,
said Talwyn.
Start with dislike, move to loathing, and eventually achieve full-blown vendetta.
Rook tucked the note away with the other 2, his growing collection of anonymous insults, and kicked dirt over the fire.
Whoever's playing games,
he said to the trees,
they're going to regret picking me.
Because you're dangerous?
asked the sword.
No,
said Rook, slinging his pack over his shoulder.
Because I'm petty.
He gave the footprints one last look, then started down the narrow trail toward the hole. The forest loomed darker now, the mist thicker. Somewhere behind him a twig snapped. Light, deliberate, close. Rook didn't turn.
You can keep writing,
he said under his breath.
But if you throw another rock at my face, I'm throwing it back.
The forest gave no answer. Just the quiet, amused rustle of leaves that sounded suspiciously like laughter. Chapter 6. A Whole Lot of Trouble. By morning, the forest mist had settled thick and low, turning every branch and rock into a ghost of itself. Rook trudged along the narrow path, bleary-eyed and sore, clutching a crust of bread that had ambitions of being a rock. The cursed sword at his hip hummed a low, tuneless melody that could generously be described as unhelpful.
Would it kill you to hum something cheerful?
Rook grumbled.
I tried,
said Sir Talwyn.
Everything cheerful sounds sarcastic when you're cursed.
The trees finally thinned, and the ground dipped sharply ahead. The air changed, cooler, heavier, and Rook knew he was close before he saw it. Then the forest simply ended. Before him a giant hole in the earth. Not a cave mouth, a hole. Vast and round, its edges smooth like something had bitten a chunk out of the world and forgotten to chew. Mist curled down into it, vanishing into shadows. Rook whistled low.
That's not a big hole at all. Much.
The sword's voice echoed faintly.
Ah, yes, the kingdom's great architectural achievement, a bottomless death pit.
Don't say bottomless,
Rook muttered.
That's just tempting gravity.
He edged closer, crouching by the rim. The ground was damp but firm, with clumps of moss gripping the edges. He picked up a pebble, dropped it in and waited. Nothing. Not even a sound of impact, just silence.
Oh, good,
said Talwyn.
It's a silent death pit.
Rook squinted around, scanning for a way down. The king's request, a royal death wish, had been simple. Retrieve 3 live bats from the hole. Try not to die. If you do die, please do it quietly. He spotted a cluster of vines draping down into the hole, thick and dark green, their roots knotted into the lip of the earth. They swayed gently in the cool morning breeze. Rook gave one an experimental tug. Firm, strong, pleasantly springy.
Well,
He said.
they feel good.
Oh, splendid,
Said the sword.
You're judging your climbing equipment by texture. That's comforting.
I've fallen down worse.
Rook said, gripping another vine.
Remember the well in Gutter's End?
How could I forget? I still have nightmares.
He tested his weight carefully. The vine creaked but held. Rook grinned.
See? Perfect. Stable. Reliable.
Something deep in the hole made a sound halfway between a growl and a cough. Rook froze. The sword hummed.
Still feeling confident, are we?
Mostly.
Said Rook. He looped the rope from his pack around the nearest root as a precaution, not because he was scared, but because he liked not dying. Then, with one last glance at the sky, and a muttered prayer to whichever deity owed him money, he swung over the edge and began his descent. The vines were cold to the touch, slick with dew, but they held firm. The air grew cooler as he climbed, the morning light dimming above him until only the faint glow of his lantern cast shapes on the walls.
See?
He said, panting slightly.
Easy. I'm practically a professional.
You're a professional idiot,
Talwyn replied from his scabbard.
Thank you.
About 10 feet down, something fluttered past his ear. Rook flinched.
Bat?
Leaf.
Said Talwyn.
Didn't sound like a leaf.
Didn't look like a bat.
Didn't feel like either.
Then it's probably something worse. Keep going.
The hole's walls began to change. Patches of moss gave way to veins of stone, damp and glistening. Strange white mushrooms clung to the rock, glowing faintly. A drop of water fell from somewhere above, landing squarely on Rook's nose. He sighed.
If that's bird-related, I swear.
But then something else caught his eye. About 20 feet below, the vines disappeared into a ledge, a dark lip in the wall that jutted out like a balcony. And from within that blackness came a faint, rhythmic fluttering.
Bats,
Rook whispered.
Or a small, angry bear,
The sword muttered. He adjusted his grip and continued down, the hole's breath whispering against his ears. The vines were still sturdy, but he could feel them growing slicker and stranger. The texture was no longer bark or stem. He froze mid-climb.
Talwyn,
He whispered.
These vines feel weird.
You're halfway down a cursed hole,
Said the sword.
Everything feels weird.
No, seriously. They're warm.
Lovely. You've discovered the rare living vine. Do try not to anger it.
Rook grimaced.
You're making that up.
I make a great many things up. Unfortunately, this may not be one of them.
Below him something rustled. The fluttering grew louder. Wings? Rook peered downward, squinting into the black. He could just make out the curve of the ledge and something shifting on it. Chapter 7. The Fall in the Mouse. Rook had just started to think the vines were uncomfortably warm when they moved. Not the casual sway of wind or the slither of gravity, but no, this was deliberate. A twitch, a shiver, then a sharp, jerking motion that nearly sent him tumbling.
Talwyn,
He hissed, clutching tighter.
tell me you felt that.
I did,
Said the sword grimly.
and I deeply disapprove.
The vines jerked again, once, twice, then twang. Something above him gave a sharp snap. Bits of bark rained down past his ears. Rook craned his neck upward and froze. Perched at the rim of the hole, silhouetted against the daylight, was a mouse. A small grey mouse with a tattered ear, a mean glint in his beady eyes, and impossibly a knife clenched between his tiny teeth.
Is that...
Rook began.
Grimtooth!
Said the sword with the weary sigh of someone who had already accepted disaster. Grimtooth spat the knife into his paws and glared down with all the fury a rodent could muster.
Ha! I have you now!
he squeaked in a voice that managed to be both high-pitched and villainous, which was quite an achievement. Rook blinked.
You've got to be kidding me.
Never underestimate small mammals with grudges,
muttered Talwyn. The mouse brandished his knife, which up close looked suspiciously like a bent nail.
You thought you could steal my cheese and my dignity, Goblin?
Rook groaned.
That was 6 months ago. You can't still be mad about that.
I swore revenge.
Grimtooth shrieked, standing triumphantly on the rope.
And today Grimtooth collects.
Before Rook could protest further, the mouse started hacking. Tiny, furious squeaks accompanied each wild chop of his nail knife. The rope quivered violently.
Talwyn,
said Rook, tightening his grip.
This is ridiculous.
Yes,
said the sword calmly.
But also fatal. Hold on.
The rope snapped. Rook had just enough time to say,
Oh, fantastic!
Before gravity seized him by the ankles and yanked. He plummeted. The walls blurred into streaks of grey and green. His hood flew back, the air roaring in his ears. He flailed, catching a glimpse of his own sword slipping free of its scabbard.
Talwyn!
He shouted.
I hate this part!
The sword wailed as it spun end over end, gleaming in the dim light, then vanished downward into the dark. Rook fell after it, a flailing, swearing tangle of limbs and regret. For a long, breathless second, there was only the fall, the rush of air, the pull of the earth, and the faint, echoing sound of a mouse's victorious cackle fading far above.
Ha ha! Down you go, Privy Goblin!
Then the ground arrived, hard, muddy, and entirely unsympathetic. Rook hit it with a splat and lay there for several dramatic moments, considering whether death would be less embarrassing than explaining this to anyone later. He groaned.
Ow.
Ow indeed,
muttered Talwyn's voice faintly from somewhere nearby. Rook rolled onto his back and groaned again. He was alive, barely, covered in mud, possibly broken in spirit but alive. He squinted through the dim light. His lantern had smashed open beside him, its glass cracked but still flickering weakly.
Talwyn!
He called.
Over here!
Came the sword's voice, echoing faintly, face down in a puddle. Rook crawled toward it, muttering every rude word he knew. He pulled the blade from the mud, wiped it on his sleeve, and held it up.
Ugh!
He grumbled.
Shall I assume this is the part where you reflect on your life choices?
I'm reflecting on how much I hate rodents.
He glanced up. The shaft above stretched into infinity, a faint circle of daylight barely visible.
Well,
he sighed.
That's one way down.
And no way back up,
the sword added cheerfully.
Unless I throw you really hard.
I'd come back and stab you.
Fair point.
Somewhere in the darkness around them something shifted. A quiet scrape, a flutter, a sound like leathery wings stretching. Rook exhaled.
Oh, good. The bats.
Talwyn's runes glowed faintly.
Yes, and possibly whatever eats the bats.
Rook groaned, standing shakily.
Perfect! Stuck in a hole, covered in mud, betrayed by a mouse.
He lifted the sword.
Let's just get this over with.
And far above, Grimtooth's tiny laughter echoed one last time.
Ha! You stay down there! Stinky Goblin! Grimtooth always wins!
Chapter 8. Bat Business and Mouse Revenge. The bottom of the hole smelled like wet stone, old air and mild regret. Rook wiped mud off his face with the least dirty patch of his sleeve, which wasn't saying much. His lantern, cracked but still flickering, cast a nervous orange glow across the cavern floor. Shadows stretched long and strange across the walls.
Well, that's one way down,
he muttered.
Barely,
said Sir Talwyn.
And by we, you mean you fell and I screamed elegantly.
You scream like a rusty teapot.
Rook picked up what was left of his rope, now a sad, frayed stub, and stuffed it into his pack. His back ached, his pride was bruised, and his mind was a swirl of two thoughts. Catch bats and make the mouse pay.
Right,
he said grimly.
First I find the bats, then I find Grimtooth and catapult him into the sun.
Rook finished.
Creative! Do you have access to a catapult?
I can build one.
The cavern stretched ahead in a series of uneven slopes and jagged rock columns. Strange white fungi clung to the walls, glowing just enough to make the place feel dreamlike, or maybe nightmarish. Water dripped from somewhere above, echoing through the emptiness, and somewhere deeper in the dark came the faint sound of wings.
There,
Rook whispered.
bats! See?
Yes,
Said Talwyn.
just walk up and ask them politely to follow you home.
That's the plan.
Truly, your methods terrify me.
Rook crept forward, his boots squelching faintly in the mud. The air grew cooler, and the fluttering grew louder, until he turned a corner and froze. Hundreds of bats hung from the ceiling, tiny twitching shapes clinging to stone in clusters, like leathery grapes.
Ha!
Rook whispered.
There's enough here for a dozen king's bounties.
If only you had any method whatsoever of catching them.
Rook grinned and pulled something from his pack, a fishing net, torn, patched, and smelling faintly of soup.
Oh no,
Said Talwyn flatly.
not that thing again.
It'll work this time.
It didn't work last time.
Last time we were catching pigeons. This time it's bats. Totally different techniques.
He crouched low, moving quietly, or as quietly as a mud-caked goblin can. The bats twitched but didn't scatter.
See?
He whispered.
Smooth as silk!
You are literally covered in mud.
Talwyn whispered back. Rook eased the net upward, inch by inch, ready to scoop a cluster of the dozing creatures. Almost there. A few more inches. Drip. A single drop of water splashed right on his nose. Rook sneezed. The bats exploded into the air. The cave filled with the thunder of wings and shrill squeaks. Rook shouted, swung the net wildly, and managed to catch exactly one, which immediately bit his thumb.
Ow! Fang rat!
The sword sighed.
Majestic creatures indeed.
When the chaos settled, Rook was left clutching a wriggling bat in a net covered in guano and reconsidering all his life choices.
One down,
He panted.
2 to go.
At this rate, we'll be here till winter.
Said Talwyn.
Shut up.
He dropped the bat carefully into a small pouch, pinching it shut. The creature squeaked angrily.
There! That's what you get for biting me!
As he caught his breath, Rook leaned against a rock column and stared upward toward the faint glow of daylight impossibly high above.
Grimtooth,
He muttered darkly.
you've made an enemy for life.
How very mature.
Said the sword.
I'm serious. I'm going to find his stupid little nest, steal all his food, and replace it with...
Poison?
Yes, that sounds great. It will look like food, but they're not. Then I'll hire a bard to write a song about him being bad at knife work.
Ah, yes. The true revenge of legends.
Rook's eyes glinted in the dim light.
Oh, and I'll draw a picture of him as a hairless rat and hang it in the tavern.
Truly terrifying.
Said Talwyn.
The mouse will never recover.
Good!
Rook said with grim satisfaction.
He shouldn't have messed with a goblin on a job.
Just then, the ground beneath him gave a subtle tremor, barely noticeable, but enough to make the puddles ripple. Rook frowned.
Did you feel that?
Yes,
Said Talwyn.
and I vote we leave.
Can't. I still need 2 bats and a way out.
Perhaps both will come to you at once.
Said the sword. From deeper in the cavern came a low, rolling sound. Not quite a growl, not quite a rumble. Something big was moving down there. Rook sighed.
Why is it never just bats?
Because you angered a mouse god.
Said Talwyn.
Shut up.
He raised his lantern and squinted into the shadows ahead. The sound came again, closer, wetter, hungrier. Rook took a steadying breath.
All right,
He said.
3 bats, 1 vendetta, and possibly a monster. Let's call that a Tuesday.
An optimistic Tuesday.
Said the sword. And with that, Rook pressed onward into the dark, his net at the ready, muttering something unspeakably rude about rodents. Chapter 9. The Cauldron Takes Flight. The sound grew into a thick, living murmur, like rain, but too wet, too rhythmic, too intentional. Rook crept forward, lantern held high, the light trembling in his muddy hand. The cavern widened into a hollow bowl of stone. Moist air swirled, warm and stinking of guano and something faintly metallic. Rook squinted upward, and there they were. Not bats, not normal bats anyway. These were monsters, winged bladders with claws, each one the size of a melon and twice as grumpy. They hung together in a shifting mass, thousands of them, pulsing and rustling against one another like a single enormous living cauldron. Rook's jaw dropped.
Oh, you have got to be kidding me!
Talwyn's voice went dry.
On the bright side, you found them.
On the bright side? Talwyn, that one over there could mug a horse, it's so big.
Yes, but they're technically bats. Mission accomplished.
Mission suicide!
The giant creatures stirred, leathery wings creaking. The faint glow from the fungi caught their eyes, hundreds of tiny red reflections blinking in unison. Rook swallowed.
All right, nice and easy. 3 live ones, the king said. That's 1, 2, 3. Plenty to choose from.
He reached for his battered fishing net, feeling utterly ridiculous.
This is for the pay,
he muttered.
Of course,
said Talwyn.
Not at all for the personal fulfillment of fighting monster-sized vermin.
Exactly.
He crept closer, boots sinking slightly in the mud. A few of the melon bats hissed softly, but most just twitched, unimpressed. Rook swung the net. The net hit home, sort of. It tangled around a trio of wings, and suddenly the air exploded with motion. The cavern filled with shrieks and wind. Enormous leathery bodies surged upward, wings buffeting Rook so hard he nearly dropped his lantern.
I got 3!
He yelled.
I'm aware!
Screamed Talwyn over the din. The bats twisted, flapping wildly. Rook's net went taut, nearly yanking him off his feet.
Hold still! He
shouted, which as advice to flying monsters was historically ineffective. The bats screeched and heaved, and then with one collective burst of wing power they lifted off. Rook had just enough time to shout,
"Oh no!"
before his boots left the ground. He shot upward, clinging to the net like a stubborn piece of luggage. The bats thundered toward the top of the shaft, dragging him along behind them. The lantern tumbled from his belt, spinning into darkness. Talwyn howled from his scabbard.
I told you not to touch anything!
This isn't my fault!
Rook yelled back.
Everything you do is your fault!
Up they soared, wind roaring in Rook's ears, the walls of the hole whipping past in a dizzy blur. Mud and bits of vine lashed his face. Somewhere above, the tiny circle of daylight grew larger.
Higher! Go higher!
He urged, half to the bats, half to himself.
We're nearly... Gah!
A wing slapped him across the head. One of the bats screeched indignantly, offended at being used as transport, and then, with a rush of air and a final triumphant screech, they burst out of the hole and into the morning light. Rook dangled beneath them, wind whipping his cloak and mud spraying from his boots. Below, the forest stretched green and endless. The bats wheeled upward, free and furious. Rook's net tore slightly, but, miracle of miracles, didn't snap. He laughed, half delirious.
Ha! Look at that, Talwyn. We're flying.
Yes!
groaned the sword.
And at any moment we'll be falling again. It's called Rook's cycle.
The bats, uninterested in transport duty, suddenly tilted in unison. The net lurched.
Uh-oh,
said Rook.
Here it comes!
sighed Talwyn. The net ripped clean through. Rook plummeted again, less dramatically this time, but with equal enthusiasm. He landed in a muddy thump near the edge of the forest, coughing up a mouthful of leaves. Above him, 3 enormous bats flapped triumphantly away into the morning sky, still tangled in bits of net. Rook spat out a twig.
That was 3 live bats,
he wheezed.
Job done.
Talwyn's voice buzzed from the scabbard.
Technically, yes. Though I suspect the king's definition of retrieved differs slightly from catapulted skyward.
Rook lay back, grinning through the mud.
Details.
He watched the bats fade into the horizon and sighed.
Well, we're alive, we're out, and I still hate mice.
Truly a happy ending,
said Talwyn.
Not yet,
Rook muttered darkly.
Not until I find Grimtooth.
Chapter 10. How to lose friends and catch giant bats. By late afternoon the forest had grown quiet again, which in Rook's experience was rarely a good sign. He trudged along the dirt path, wet boots squelching with every step, Talwyn bumping rhythmically against his hip.
Well,
said the sword with its usual gift for morale.
We've lost the bats, the rope, the lantern, and what remains of your dignity.
Rook kicked a rock.
Dignity's overrated.
Agreed, but it's at least useful for conversations.
Shut up, Talwyn.
The sunlight dappled through the trees, golden and calm, as though the world hadn't just watched him fall into a hole and get abducted by oversized fruit bats. He sighed and muttered,
Maybe the king won't notice they flew off. Maybe he'll think retrieved means saw them once and screamed.
Yes,
said Talwyn dryly.
You'll just hand in a vivid description and call it a day.
Rook was about to respond when something flapped overhead. Loudly. He froze, squinting up through the branches. There, 3 enormous shapes swaying awkwardly among the treetops, tangled together in a shredded net. The bats squawked and flapped, bumping into each other like clumsy balloons. Rook's eyes went wide.
You've got to be kidding me!
Talwyn hummed.
Oh, look! Providence. Or incompetence. Hard to tell with you.
They're still here!
Rook grinned.
They're still mine!
One of the bats screeched in response, clearly disagreeing. The goblin scanned the trees, muttering his plan.
Right. I'll climb up there, nice and easy. Untangle the net, grab them one by one, bag them...
And fall again!
Talwyn interrupted.
Not this time. This time, I've got a system.
Oh, wonderful. What's it called?
The Goblin method.
Which is...
Mostly improvising and shouting.
He jammed the sword into the ground and began climbing the nearest tree. Bark crumbled under his fingers, leaves stuck in his hair, and somewhere below Talwyn muttered encouragements like, Higher! Yes, that way. Toward your inevitable doom. Halfway up, Rook paused on a branch, balancing precariously. The bats hung just a few yards above, still knotted in the net. They flapped uselessly, making the whole canopy sway.
Hey, ugly!
Rook called up.
Remember me?
One of the bats screeched and spat something unpleasant in his direction.
Right,
he said cheerfully.
We're all in agreement then.
He clambered higher until he could reach the net. The creatures flapped in panic as he grabbed hold, wrapping one leg around the branch for balance.
Hold still!
He barked, tugging the tangled mess closer.
I'm not here to hurt you, just to stuff you into a bag for money.
After several minutes of grunting, shouting, and the occasional near-death wobble, Rook managed to haul the flapping, furious bundle close enough to tie the remains of the net around a sturdy branch.
Ha!
He cried triumphantly.
Gotcha!
The bat squealed, wings thrashing, but the net held.
Behold!
Rook crowed.
3 live bats retrieved and secured. Who's useless now, huh?
Still you,
said Talwyn far below.
You're just useless with props.
Rook started the slow process of lowering the net, hand over hand, muttering curses, until the bats were finally back on the forest floor. They squeaked indignantly as he tied the whole squirming bundle shut, leaving only their angry heads poking out.
There,
he panted.
Job done! Properly this time.
Indeed,
said the sword.
And only 4 near-death experiences to achieve it.
Efficiency!
He patted the net proudly. The bats hissed.
Don't give me that look,
Rook said.
You're lucky I didn't try to cook you.
They'd probably cook you first,
Talwyn muttered.
Fair point.
As dusk settled, Rook slung the heavy, wriggling net over his shoulder and began the long trek back toward the castle. The bats made occasional disgruntled noises. Talwyn occasionally sighed, and Rook, for once, allowed himself a smug little smile.
See, Talwyn? We're finally ahead.
Of what?
Everything. Fate, gravity, mice.
You do realize Grimtooth's probably waiting for you back at the castle.
Rook froze mid-step.
He better not be.
Oh, I'm certain he is. Probably writing another note as we speak.
Rook groaned.
This day just won't end.
Chapter 11. Rest in peace, ugly goblin. It was full dark by the time Rook crept back toward the castle, the night thick and soft with mist. His boots made almost no sound on the damp grass. though the heavy, wriggling net of bats slung across his back occasionally hissed, flapped, or insulted his ancestry in squeaks.
Quiet!
Rook hissed over his shoulder.
You'll wake the guards!
They're giant flying rodents, Rook.
Talwyn murmured from his scabbard.
They are not famed for stealth.
Well, they'd better learn fast, because if I get caught sneaking in like this, the king'll have my head before breakfast.
Rest assured,
said the sword.
Someone appears to have already handled that.
Rook frowned.
What?
Talwyn's voice took on a tone of dry amusement.
Look down!
Rook reached the edge of the courtyard and stopped cold. Pinned to the castle walls, to barrels, to the stables, and even to the side of the royal chicken coop were dozens upon dozens of small parchment notices. The moonlight gleamed faintly off the ink. He squinted at one of them, then another, then another. Each one read in rough looping handwriting, "Rest in peace, ugly goblin." Rook's jaw dropped.
What?
He tore one down, stared at it, and hissed,
Talwyn! Someone's killed me!
The sword snorted.
At long last. A day off.
No, I mean, someone pretended to kill me. Look, they even got the spelling right. That's personal.
He spun in a small, furious circle, clutching the notice.
This is an attack on my reputation. My ugly is a family heirloom.
Yes,
Talwyn said.
And apparently it's been passed down for generations.
Rook stormed toward the castle, muttering darkly.
Grimtooth. I'll bet my boots this is his work. Tiny little paws, tiny little brain, big vendetta.
Small rodent, big ambitions,
Talwyn mused.
I'll show him ambitions. I'll staple him to a notice board.
He ducked behind a water barrel as two guards walked past, chatting about the tragic goblin demise.
Poor sod,
said one.
They say the king's quite pleased about it.
Aye. Gonna throw a feast tomorrow.
Hope there's mutton.
Rook's eye twitched.
Feast?
He whispered furiously.
They're having a party about me being dead!
Technically,
said the sword,
that's a promotion in some circles.
Rook groaned, rubbing his face.
I can't even die quietly.
He waited until the guards disappeared, then darted across the courtyard, ducking into the shadows of the great hall doors. He shoved them open just enough to slip inside. The hall was dimly lit, torches guttering low, empty, save for a few sleepy servants and the long dining table at the far end. Rook staggered forward, dropping the heavy, squirming net onto the polished floor with a thump. The bats hissed indignantly, one of them attempting to nibble the leg of a chair.
There!
Rook panted, and
3 live bats. As requested. Mission accomplished.
Splendid,
said Talwyn. He straightened, brushing dirt from his tunic, and looked around.
Where's the king? I want this job marked done.
From the far corner, a sleepy servant poked his head up from behind a pile of plates.
The king's gone to bed, sir. Didn't expect, you.
Rook blinked.
Didn't expect me.
The servant looked awkward.
Well, my lord Wulfric heard you were, deceased.
Rook's eyes narrowed.
He heard wrong.
Yes, sir. Obviously. Very lively, sir.
The servant's gaze darted nervously to the bats, who were now sulking in a pile of fur and wings.
Shall I, tell His Majesty you've returned from the dead, sir?
Rook rubbed his chin thoughtfully.
No. Let's make it a surprise.
Talwyn groaned.
Here we go.
He leaned against the table, eyeing his captured prizes.
Well, Talwyn, we've got proof of success. A castle full of people who think I'm a ghost, and a rodent enemy with a flair for dramatic posters. I call that progress.
One of the bats flapped, making a squeaky sort of protest. Rook grinned down at them.
Don't worry, you 3. You're about to make me rich, famous, and possibly haunted.
The sword sighed.
If we survive the king's reaction, I'll let you keep one as a pet.
Deal,
Rook said cheerfully.
I'll name it after Grimtooth.
Chapter 12. The Ghost of Bad Decisions. The first rays of dawn slipped through the stained glass windows of the great hall, painting the long table in sleepy gold and crimson. The bats, 3 large, grumpy melons with wings, snored softly in their tangled net near the fireplace. Rook was snoring too, face down on the table, arms sprawled, one foot still twitching as if in mid-fall. Talwyn lay beside him, the sword's polished surface reflecting a rather undignified amount of drool. And that was precisely the moment King Wulfric entered. The king was not by nature a morning person. His hair stuck up like a startled hedgehog, his night robe trailed behind him, and he was clutching a mug of something called Royal Awakening Brew that could melt a spoon if you left it in too long. He stomped toward the table, muttering,
"They'd better have roasted something nice for the feast. Dead goblin or not, I need my mutton."
He reached for the chair at the head of the table, then froze. Rook groaned and turned over.
5 more minutes, Your Majesty.
King Wulfric's cup clattered to the floor.
"By the beard of Bronther."
Rook jerked awake, blinking.
What? Who? Where's breakfast?
The king stumbled backward, pointing an accusing finger.
"You. You're dead. I saw the notices."
Rook rubbed his face.
I saw them too. Bit rude, honestly.
"Back, spirit. I command thee to haunt somewhere else."
The king grabbed a serving platter like a shield and waved a sausage fork threateningly.
"Begone, foul phantom of incompetence."
Foul? Phantom?
Rook blinked.
I'm not a ghost, Your Majesty.
"Lies!"
the king shouted, stabbing the air with the fork.
"The notices said rest in peace."
Yes, and I'd like to, but you keep shouting.
The commotion drew other attention. The doors swung open and in swept Queen Mirabelle, resplendent in a silk robe, yawning delicately.
Wulfric, what is all this noise? Have you declared war before breakfast again?
"Woman,"
Wulfric sputtered.
"the goblin lives."
Queen Mirabelle peered across the hall. Her eyes fell on Rook, muddy, sleepy hair sticking up like moss.
Oh,
she said with mild amusement.
Hello, Rook. I thought you were dead.
Rook spread his hands.
Apparently, so did everyone else.
Well, you do have that decomposed sort of charm about you,
she said. Talwyn whispered from the table.
She likes you.
Or at least she's choosing to find you hilarious.
Rook muttered.
I'll take it.
Before the king could protest further, the doors opened again, this time to admit Prince Fluffykins, who stumbled in wearing his nightshirt and one slipper. His hair stuck out in every direction.
What's happening?
He mumbled.
Are we at war? Is the goblin haunting us?
Rook waved.
Morning, kid.
Fluffykins dropped his apple.
Ah! Zombie! Goblin!
Rook groaned.
Not a zombie.
Then how are you here?
I climbed out of a hole.
Out of the grave?
No. An actual hole, with bats.
The prince peeked at the net of winged fruit beside the fire.
Oh, you!
They're my proof,
Rook said proudly.
3 live bats, as requested.
Queen Mirabelle clapped once, delighted.
Marvellous. I've always wanted to see one up close.
One of the bats hissed at her. She smiled serenely.
How charming.
King Wulfric, meanwhile, was circling Rook suspiciously, still holding the sausage fork like an exorcist's tool.
"If you're not a ghost,"
he said,
"prove it."
Rook blinked.
How?
"Do something only the living would do."
Rook thought for a second, then farted, loudly. The queen blinked. The prince laughed so hard he nearly choked. Talwyn sighed.
"Elegant, as always."
The king groaned and rubbed his temple.
"By the gods, I preferred you dead."
Rook straightened his tattered tunic.
You sent me for 3 live bats. I brought back 3 live bats. Job's done. Pay up.
"Pay up?"
Wulfric barked.
"You nearly gave me a heart attack. The guards thought you were haunting the lavatory."
That's where I live.
"Exactly."
Queen Mirabelle gave a tinkling laugh.
Oh, let him be, dear. He's entertaining.
"Entertaining,"
Wulfric sputtered.
"He's a menace."
Fluffykins piped up.
He's kind of funny, though.
"Silence, boy. We don't praise goblins."
Can I keep one of the bats?
No,
shouted both parents at once. Rook sighed and muttered,
I risk my neck for 3 bats, fall down a hole, fight a mouse, fake my own death, and still no thank you.
The king threw up his hands.
Fine. Keep your blasted payment and get out of my hall before I make those notices true.
Rook grinned and slung the net over his shoulder.
Pleasure doing business, your majesty.
Out.
As he shuffled toward the doors, Queen Mirabelle called lightly,
Do stop by again soon, Rook. Next time, try to stay alive for the whole errand, won't you?
Rook smirked.
No promises, your majesty.
He winked at the prince, who grinned back. And as Rook vanished into the corridor, Talwyn murmured,
So, what's next?
Rook's grin widened.
Oh, I think it's time I paid Grimtooth a visit.
Chapter 13. There's no place like a stolen home. By the time Rook made it back to the little door beneath the royal outhouse, night had rolled in again, thick, cold, and smelling faintly of cabbage stew from the castle kitchens. He stopped outside the crooked wooden door, sighing contentedly. Home, damp, tiny, questionable, but his.
Finally,
he muttered.
One successful quest, a full payment, and only mild public humiliation. I might even light both candles tonight.
Luxury,
said Talwyn from his scabbard.
Shall I play you a lullaby?
Save it for my funeral,
Rook said cheerfully, pushing open the door. The hinges creaked. Then Rook froze. Inside, his home looked different. For one thing, it was clean. For another, there was a table, an actual tiny table, made out of what looked like an overturned teacup lid. There was also a scrap of carpet, a matchbox bed, a set of thimble-sized chairs, and, most insultingly of all, a little banner hung proudly across the ceiling that read, Welcome to my lair. Rook blinked.
What?
From somewhere near his bed, which had been replaced by a folded handkerchief embroidered with daisies, came a small, familiar voice.
Welcome home, Roomy.
Rook's eye twitched.
Grimtooth.
The mouse stepped out from behind the handkerchief, wearing a bit of thread like a scarf and holding a crumb of cheese like a goblet. His whiskers gleamed in the candlelight.
You weren't using the place,
Grimtooth said with infuriating jeer.
And after your tragic demise, I thought, well, someone should keep it warm.
Rook's jaw clenched.
My tragic demise was greatly exaggerated.
Oh, I know,
said Grimtooth, smiling.
I wrote the posters myself.
Talwyn's voice vibrated with amusement.
I must admit, the typography was impressive.
Not helping,
Rook growled. He took a step forward.
All right, Mouse. Pack your cheese and get out.
Grimtooth leaned casually against the teacup table.
Oh, come now. You're not mad, are you? I even improved the place. Look, scented petals for the floor, tiny curtains on the window hole.
You curtained my air hole?
Rook barked.
It's called atmosphere, dear Goblin. You're welcome.
Rook's voice dropped low and dangerous.
You cut my vines. You dropped me down a hole. You tried to kill me with the note campaign.
Yes,
said Grimtooth mildly.
And yet here we are, both alive, both decorated. Isn't life funny?
Talwyn whispered.
You could squash him, you know.
I'm thinking about it,
Rook hissed back. Grimtooth sipped his cheese crumb like fine wine.
Besides, you should be thanking me. The king thinks you're dead, which means you're free. No more dangerous quests, no more near-death heroics. You're welcome.
Welcome?
Rook threw up his hands.
You ruined my reputation, Mouse.
Grimtooth shrugged.
I thought you were doing a fine job of that yourself.
Rook's face went a shade of green, somewhere between rage and nausea.
I ought to...
Squash me. You could try,
Grimtooth said, waving a tiny paw.
But I've set up tripwires, you see.
Rook blinked.
You what?
Grimtooth gestured proudly toward the corner, where a bit of thread ran from one pebble to another.
All over. Tug the wrong one, and...
Rook took a step and a loud click echoed through the room. Grimtooth grinned. Rook froze. Then a small sack of flour, where did the mouse even get flour, dropped from the ceiling and exploded across his face. Rook stood in silence, ghostly white and sputtering. Grimtooth gave a polite little golf clap.
Effective, isn't it? keeps unwanted guests out.
Talwyn snorted.
And in this case, apparently in...
Shut up!
Rook hissed, coughing up flour. He leaned close to Grimtooth, glaring.
Listen here, Whisker Face. You've got until sunrise to move your tiny empire out of my home. Got it?
Grimtooth smirked.
Or what? You'll send me on a dangerous quest?
Rook's grin turned slow and wicked.
No, I'll give you one.
Grimtooth tilted his head.
Go on.
I've got a job that needs a mouse's delicate touch. You help me with it and you can keep half the space. Deal?
Grimtooth's nose twitched suspiciously.
Half the space?
Rook nodded solemnly.
Equal partnership. You, me, and the plumbing,
Talwyn muttered.
You're lying through your teeth, aren't you?
Obviously,
Rook whispered. The mouse studied him a long moment, then grinned.
All right, Goblin. You've got yourself a deal.
Perfect.
Rook said, dusting off his coat.
Welcome aboard, Grimtooth. Let's call it an uneasy alliance.
Delightful,
said Grimtooth.
Shall we celebrate with cheese?
Cheese later. Scheming now.
Rook turned toward his tiny door, eyes glinting with mischief. Talwyn groaned.
Oh no, he's planning again.
Rook smirked.
That's right. Tomorrow we make trouble.
Chapter 14 of Mice, Meat, and Misfortune. Rook smiled the kind of smile that made candles flicker nervously. Grimtooth was still preening beside the teacup table, prattling on about teamwork and mutual respect, when Rook said pleasantly,
Good. I'm glad we're partners, Grimtooth. Now, one last bit of business.
The mouse tilted his head.
Oh!
Yes, lodging arrangements.
Before Grimtooth could blink, Rook grabbed a nearby bucket, plonked it down over the mouse, and dropped a rock the size of a loaf of bread on top for good measure. Inside, Grimtooth's muffled voice squeaked.
Rude!
Rook yawned.
I've learned from experience that roommates tend to redecorate while you sleep.
Let me out, you mouldy pickle!
See? Already louder than I like.
Rook blew out his candle, curled up on his handkerchief bed, and muttered,
Good night, Grimtooth. Try not to plot revenge too loudly.
The muffled response under the bucket was a string of words that would have gotten a mouse banned from any polite teacup society. Morning came bright and annoyingly cheerful. Rook woke with a stretch, scratched his ear, and stared at the bucket. It wobbled slightly.
Still alive,
he said.
Excellent. You'll need that.
Need what?
Came the indignant reply. Rook grinned.
Breakfast job.
A short while later, in the dew-soaked edge of the forest, Rook set Grimtooth on the ground. The mouse blinked up at him suspiciously.
Why are we out here?
Because you're going on an adventure,
Rook said, tying a long strip of raw meat to Grimtooth's back.
What in the 9 tea bags is this?
Bait.
Bait?
Motivation.
For whom?
Rook knelt and pointed across the wide stretch of open grassland ahead. In the distance, something gleamed faintly in the sunlight, a golden glimmer resting atop a low mossy mound.
That,
Rook said,
is the golden needle of Felithra, stuck in the paw of an ancient 3-headed cat that guards it day and night.
Grimtooth's eyes went round.
A 3-headed cat?
Yep.
And you're sending me, a mouse across an open field, wearing meat perfume to fetch something from a cat?
You're catching on beautifully.
Talwyn, slung across Rook's back, muttered,
Rook, this is monstrous.
Thank you,
Rook said. Grimtooth's tail lashed.
You can't be serious!
I absolutely can,
Rook said, giving the mouse a gentle nudge toward the grassland.
Off you go! Hero's work to be done.
I'll haunt you for this,
Grimtooth squeaked, scurrying forward despite himself.
Get in line,
said Rook. The little mouse darted into the open, the meat strip flapping behind him like a greasy flag. He was halfway across when a shadow swept across the grass. Rook shaded his eyes.
Oh no.
Oh yes,
said Talwyn dryly. A great bird of prey, wings broad as sails, eyes sharp as vengeance, spiraled down from the clouds. Grimtooth froze, looked up and squeaked,
Rook!
Rook winced.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
The hawk hit the ground with a gust of wind, grabbed the tiny squealing mouse and took off again, Meat and Mouse both disappearing into the sky. Rook watched until they vanished beyond the tree line. Talwyn broke the silence first.
Well, that's one way to resolve a partnership.
Rook nodded thoughtfully.
He was a good tenant. Noisy, but good.
Do you think he'll survive?
Rook shrugged.
He's Grimtooth. He'll probably talk the bird into giving him a ride to the next town.
He dusted off his hands, turned back toward the castle, and started whistling. By the time he ducked back through the outhouse door, the sun was high, and the castle courtyard was waking to another day of gossip and errands. Inside his little burrow, Rook set his bucket back on the shelf like a trophy, then flopped onto his bed with a grin.
Well, Talwyn,
he said,
another successful morning.
Successful,
the sword scoffed.
You lost your enemy, your accomplice, and a perfectly good piece of meat.
Exactly,
Rook said, closing his eyes.
That's what I call a productive day.
The sword sighed.
You're impossible.
Rook smirked.
And alive. That's what counts.
Outside, somewhere far above the forest, a distant squeak echoed faintly, half terror, half rage. Rook's grin widened.
Told you he'd survive.
And with that, he drifted off to sleep, content in the knowledge that life, like plumbing, was rarely quiet for long. So good night all, and see you next time.